Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Carl. Today's topic, why volume photography? See you soon. Hey everyone, welcome back. So what we're going to talk about today is why volume photography, right? So obviously you've got the volume side and then you've got more of the high-end portraiture side. So this is a huge question that I get all the time. Why did you choose volume? Isn't it quantity over quality? I get that a lot. How can you make any money charging $15 a package? So these are a lot of the common questions that I get. So I want to debunk some of this and to an extent agree with other pieces of some of the skepticism. So I just kind of want to do a full breakdown, and you guys are going to learn real fast. I'm a numbers guy. I love spreadsheets. So I want to dive into a Excel spreadsheet and just kind of do a side-by-side comparison. Maybe this is elementary, but and I'm gonna just use weddings. Obviously on portrait you've got weddings, you've got seniors, you've got high-end sports photos, you've got birthdays, you've got the list is endless, right? So let's just go ahead and kind of break this down, right? So we've got weddings, which I think is probably the most well-known of the portraiture realm. That's what people think of. And then we've got volume, okay? Now, with the volume, we're talking schools, youth leagues, little league programs, things of that nature, right? So on your portrait side, right, a lot of times you're going to be one-on-one, and it's going to be for hours, an hour or hours. So you're dealing with the same client for a significantly longer period of time. Now, some people love that because you get time with your client. You get to learn your client, okay? Volume, I'm still one-on-one, okay? I'm still focusing on that specific client, but I got seconds to do it. So I've only got a few seconds to really bond with my client, because we photograph each of our kids in anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds. And then we're on to the next client. The difference is we've got thousands of clients that we're working with in a very, very short period of time. Okay? So another thing on the portrait side, right? So we've got artwork, or even just art, right? So a lot of portrait photographers, the reason they go into portrait photography is they love the art of it. They love the posing. They love telling a story. Okay? So with volume, we have systems. All right? So every kid more than likely is going to get the same pose. There's not a lot of room for creativity there. Now, you just choose that creativity ahead of time versus in the moment. Now, again, a lot of wedding photographers, portrait photographers, they're going to do the same, right? They're going to, think of poses that's going to fit their client prior to, but you can change your poses from client to client. Volume, it's not the same way, right? If I have 1,000 kids that I have to photograph in 2 or 3 hours, I'm going to put them in the same poses all the time. It's very, very systematic. So you kind of lose that art feel, right? So let's talk about risk. In portrait photography, and again, opinion, right? I feel if I've got a bride that I have to make happy, I've got all my eggs in one basket. So if I screw something up, it's very risky, right? And it might not even be something I screw up. Camera card goes bad. Lens, for whatever reason, you get an error on your camera and it won't connect to your camera. There's so many things that go wrong, which is why you have second shooters, and you can do things to negate the risk, but you have risk having one client for that session. Obviously, I mean, that one client isn't necessarily going to affect your other clients. It could by PR, but on a volume side, right, I can still have that same risk if a camera card goes bad or what have you. But if let's say one of my photographers screws up some posing, or there's hair in the face, I don't ruin 1,000 kids' photos or 1,000 experiences because of one child. So it's a little less risky. Plus, the price tag is significantly lower. So I'm not, let's talk absolute worst case scenario, right? I completely lose someone's photos. I'm refunding $20. The portrait photographer's refunding $5,000. Okay, so again, that's again, opinion, but that's how I see the risk, right? Just overall education, right? There's a lot more that you have to learn. Again, I feel, as a portrait photographer: lighting, posing, cameras, aperture, right? A lot of this stuff you've got to really, really be honed in on. And you still need education here on the volume side, but because of the systems in place, once you get your system set, it's kind of a plug and play, right? So we change things from schools to sports, but realistically, it's kind of a plug and play. Very rarely do we actually change our system. So once I feel good about our lighting, and I feel good about our green screen and our extractions and our posing, we hit the freeze button and it stays. So and again, that goes to my next point: training. Okay. And I'm going to add in here second shooter. All right, when you take a second shooter on a portrait session, you really have to train them, to your style, or you hope that their style is the same, because you're going to have two different feels, right? Our training, again, going back to systems, I can have thousands of shooters, and they're going to be the same exact. So because I have a system in place, my growth potential is exponential, right? And that was something that I really, really wanted to do. I wanted to grow a business. And so that's, again, it's not everybody's flavor, right? I'm a little crazy when it comes to this. So, but point is, it's hard to duplicate yourself. Everybody knows this. So when I'm trying to duplicate myself as a portrait photographer, it's much, much more difficult than on the volume side. Okay. Now, let's talk numbers a little bit, right? So for instance, well, actually, let's retract. I want to talk about clients first. So clients, you're going to have a 1-to-1 ratio with your customer. Your client is your customer. Okay. So what I mean by that is when you go find a bride and groom, that couple is your client, and typically they are going to be your customer as well. Now, granted, you might have mom and dad wants to buy some photos, or aunt and uncle want to buy some photos, or what have you. But typically it's on a one-on-one ratio. Okay. Now, this is where things really start to change and get exciting on the volume side. From a client to customer ratio, you don't know. Okay, one client could bring you thousands of customers. Okay, hundreds to thousands of customers. One client, right? So when we talk sales, this gets exciting, because you book a school and you could have 800 kids in that school. That's 800 selling opportunities that one client brought you. Okay, so that it gets very exciting. Okay, especially on a numbers side. So the best part to this is this is actually typically not reoccurring, and bear with me on my spelling. Now, and what I mean by this is your wedding client, yes, they could have kids. You could do kid portraits. The kids could have birthday party. Now you got birthday. You know, so you can get additional business from that client. They're not going to get married again, hopefully. You know, but on the volume side, I book with school A. School A brings me 800 kids. Guess what? Next year, those kindergartners are in first grade. We have new kindergartners. The fifth grade aged out to middle school, and now I've got new fifth graders. So every single year, I have new kids, and they're all a little bit older. So parents want the photos, right? They want that timeline of photos. So it's reoccurring business. Again, one sale. The portrait photographer has to go find another portrait client on a one-to-one basis, right? So, or one-to-one ratio. So you're constantly out trying to find new business. I could have 5 to 6 clients and do very well and never have to sell again, as long as I keep those clients happy. So that's a huge thing to think about on the volume side, is you're getting that reoccurring business, not just every year, but for schools, you've got spring and you've got fall. But guess what? They're going to need, you know, senior photos and class photos, but that's kind of part of it. But now you've got a portfolio if you wanted to dip into the portrait side for senior sessions. Okay, so there's a lot of spin-off on the volume side. For sports, it's even crazier, because now you have every season as well. So it's not just every year, but it's every season that client's going to bring you more customers. So the client ends up doing the work, which is really no work, added work for them. They're just running their program. And so, again, you don't have to continuously prove yourself as the photographer of choice. Now that we've kind of gotten into that, let's talk pricing, right? So I want to look at this with you guys live time, okay? Average cost for a wedding photographer. All right. Now, you guys saw this. I just Googled it. I'm just going by what Google says. Granted, I understand there's people charging a lot more for a wedding photographer, and there's definitely some charging less. All right, so on average, a 1 hour wedding will cost $573, and a 4 hour wedding will cost $1,600. So let's go on the high end. So 1,600. Okay, so $1,600. All right. Now, this is where this gets exciting, because everybody says, how do you make a living charging, $15 to $20 a package? Okay. So what I'm going to do is split my screen here, calculator, and you can see, you'll be able to see how exciting this gets real quick on the financial side. Okay. So if I've got 800 kids in a school, and let's say the average buy rate is about 60%. Okay, so of course this isn't gonna let me cheat this. Goodness. All right, so we're gonna go 800 times 60%, so that's 480 purchases. Okay, 480 purchases. Now, and again, everybody's is different, right? We've got schools that we're hitting a lot higher than that. We've got schools that are hitting lower than that. So I'm kind of pulling some numbers, right? So 60% is pretty solid as far as what you would expect a buy rate to be on 800 kids taking their photo. So now let's say they bought the lowest package. Okay, the absolute lowest package. Okay, so in fact, yeah, so 15 to 20 bucks. So we're gonna say $15. So now we're talking, whoop, that's a lot. No, 7,200. Okay, last I checked, 7,200 was more than 1,600. All right, so I'm winning over here on this example. So now when you start factoring in the amount of hours it takes, so this was for a 4-hour shoot, and guess what? My guys can do 200 kids, 200 to 300 kids per station, typically in a photo shoot. So this would also be roughly a 4-hour session, which is why I wanted to use 800 kids. Okay, so dollar for dollar, volume's winning. Now again, I get it. I totally get it. It's not always about the money, right? But sometimes it's about the money. All right. You got to eat. All right. So we do a lot of editing. Okay. But a lot of our editing is automated. Okay. A lot of the editing here is getting automated, but typically you want your hands on it, right? Because you're going to put your flavor. And so editing is, I'm just going to put not automated, right? I get it. We can argue this all day long as to, this side versus this side, and everybody's going to have a different opinion. Guys, this is just how my brain comprehends the two different. All right. I've done portrait. I don't like sitting in front of the computer, painting in, dodging and burning, and it's not for me. Again, when I can go make significantly more doing a lot less work, again, that's just what I'm looking at. a lot of times the sales are IPS, okay, in-person sales. Most volume companies are going online. So you can post your photos online. Parents get to log in, they get to see the photos, and the system does it itself. Right? The highest sales in portrait photography are going to be in-person sales. So you could still do online sales. And this is why I say, this is all discretionary. So you can do online sales here, and you can do in-person sales here, right? And these numbers would probably be even higher. Am I going to go meet up with 800 parents to go do in-person sales? Nope. So again, I'm gonna put them online, and I'm gonna automate that process. So, these are a lot of the big reasons why I choose volume over portrait. Okay, this fits me. What's gonna fit you? So hopefully this helps give you a little breakdown so you can make a little more educated decision. Or, for some of you that, have that skepticism on the volume side, again, this doesn't mean quantity over quality. You can still get quality images if you set this up right. If you set this up right. Okay, so if you have your systems in place, you can do a great job. Guys, there are a ton of volume photographers that have amazing photos. All right, and the difference is posing's the same, typically. All right, lighting is the same, typically. Again, it goes back to systems. Now, my definition of volume, because a lot of people say, okay, well, is 10 kids volume? I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe 10 kids is volume for you. Maybe 10 kids is volume for your company, right? Some people have thresholds. I won't do anything unless it's 100 kids or more. Great, if that works for you and your business. So my definition of volume, when people ask, is anything that creates a line. If I can create a line with it, I've got volume photography. Typically, I don't have 3 weddings going at the same time, right? I don't have senior sessions lined up back to back to back to back where they're waiting in line to get their photos taken. All right, so that's just kind of the good definition I've seen to define volume photography is anything that creates a line. Santa photos, Easter bunny photos, headshots, right? You could have corporate headshots where, again, lighting stays the same. I'm posing them all the same. Turn your chin this way, tilt your head down this way, right? So again, it doesn't have to be schools. It doesn't have to be, but the point is it's systematic. So you're getting the same result over and over and over again. It doesn't mean it's a bad result. It doesn't lessen the photography. And that's a thing that I think portrait photographers feel like they're losing on. Some of the best volume photographers I've ever met started as portrait photographers. And what they did was they brought and they systemized their process as a portrait photographer into volume. Yeah. So if you can figure that out, you got a heck of a business plan. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off here. Take a look at this. Check out the breakdown. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are or if there's anything you'd add. So, see y'all.